It's Monday, February 5th, the day after Super Sunday. I'm James Rosile, joined with, where is he? Andrew Fantasia and Joshua Lucas, coming to us from the Den of Nerds YouTube channel. You may or may not have heard of it. Chances are you have. Thanks, guys, for joining me today here on Flying Casual.
Happy to be here. Happy to fly casual. Never tell me the odds. All the yada yada.
I'm happy that Josh is here and not passed out somewhere because he's coming to us from the city of brotherly love.
Yes, Philadelphia. Philadelphia was incredible last night. For those of you that don't know, there was a big sports ball game last night. We won that sports ball game against the New England Cheaters, and now we are world champions. So, never tell me the odds. Poignant today. A lot of people in Vegas probably very happy, and a lot of bookies very disappointed.
I gotta say, I took a chance. I wore my Eagles shirt for the reaction to the Solo trailer and the video that Andrew and I did after the Solo trailer.
Probably got you some fans, man. Philly people like that. So
yeah. So, but we recorded. Andrew and I recorded our video before the Super Bowl finished, but it aired after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I couldn't comment on whether or not they won at the time. Spoiler alert, not everything is live.
True.
But it was a little fun. Andrew, of course, you're a big Super Bowl fan. How was This Is Us?
Well, it was heartbreaking. It was.
Oh, no.
It was kind of like the big episode, and it wrecked me a little bit. But it takes place on the night after the Super Bowl, so it was very fitting that it aired after the Super Bowl.
Interesting.
But congratulations to Philly. I knew they were the underdog going in, but I didn't realize how much of an underdog they were. I feel like I should have put money on that game.
Yeah. Yep. It was a great atmosphere. It was it was really fun, man. We set off way too many loud fireworks late into the night. So yeah, the whole city. It was a very cool thing to be a part of. I was grateful.
You were sending me some very sober messages.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I was.
All curse words followed by "yeah."
Yep. It was wild, man. It was wild.
It was awesome. Okay, enough super talk. Let's talk Solo talk. The trailer, of course, was rumored to be during the Super Bowl, and then, of course, a 4 to 5 second teaser dropped during the Super Bowl. Today, the full trailer dropped this morning. I think, was it on Good Morning America? I watched it on YouTube.
Yeah,
first,
nobody watches TV anymore. ABC, stop with that. But yeah, I think it was on Good Morning America.
So yeah, maybe or maybe not. But we all watched. Andrew, you did see it, right?
Yes, it did.
He was busy recording his Fanny Awards on the Andrew Fantasia channel. You should check that out. But so the trailer dropped today, and I did a reaction, and I've watched it now 3,002 times.
Pretty good.
I haven't watched it that many times. I've watched it a few times. I absolutely love it. That goes without saying. And I did a video with Josh on it, which is up on the Den of Nerds now. Is that right?
I think so, yes.
Might be. We have
Depends
no idea.
on when this goes. Oh, this is going up tonight?
This is 7 o'clock right now. Don't you know?
Look, stop doing inside baseball. Yes, it's up on the Den of Nerds. Don't you know how time works?
Andrew, how many times have you seen it?
About 74 less than you have.
Okay. Is everybody on board that you all like this trailer?
Yes, 2 thumbs way up, way up. Very, very cool trailer. Hits you with a lot of stuff too.
Andrew?
Especially that music, man. That music kicked my ass.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to start this off by talking about my favorite ship of all time, the Millennium Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
We know that it is going to look somewhat different in this movie. We know that the interior is very clean. Andrew and I spoke at length about that yesterday. Somebody tweeted out, did Han Solo have a kegger in that party? And I thought that was pretty funny.
Yep.
But I want to talk about one shot that I loved in the teaser, or the trailer today this morning. Well, it's a teaser, they're calling it. And then I didn't really notice until, it's a thumbnail to this video, but I didn't notice it until later, that when they go into hyperspace, when they're like, punch it, it's actually Lando and the droid in the driver's seats of the Falcon for that. And so 2 things caught me there was, 1, yes, Lando is flying the Falcon. 2, I guess that's his droid. Andrew?
Did anybody else think that droid looked like Alpha 5 from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
Yes, actually,
Yeah.
Fatty Fan Theory sent me a text message right after the trailer dropped with that picture.
Oh!
Like, not even, he didn't even hesitate. He's
I
like,
definitely-
solo droid, and showed it.
I love the little salutes that Lando and the droid give each other. It's like you can already see how easily he can be friends with somebody like Lobot, considering his relationship with his droid. It was really cool.
Yep. And
Josh?
I love that droid. No, that was really, really cool. Man, that Falcon looks fresh off the lot. That thing looks good. I mean, obviously we're going to have to see how we get to the used Star Wars. George had this idea that everything should feel lived in. It should feel grungy, dirty, and we're going to see it get there. I would love for this thing to literally like come off the assembly line and then they're like walking around and it's all prestigious and then like they spill a bunch of stuff or something goes wrong. Because like the Falcon is a character, right? So
Yeah.
it has such an iconic place in this film that you have to treat it sort of differently than just a normal ship in the film, and it looks like they're definitely going to do that. But I love, and we don't get a lot of Lando, but everything I saw of Lando, I was just like, this is amazing. Like he's in this fur coat. Do you guys watch Urban Acolyte TV?
Yeah.
Prince.
Ah,
So
Yeah.
Prince's reaction is brilliant. He is.
Yeah, I saw it last night,
Yeah,
too.
he's way more drunk than I am right now, which is. But he was talking about.
Because he's in
calling
Philly
him-
too, right?
No, I think he has ties to Philly. Like he knows
Okay.
somebody that I know in the comic shops at Atomic City. But no, he lives down in Florida actually. But he was calling Lando pimp juice. And I thought that was great. I was like, this is great. Like he's got like that whole fur coat thing going on. And you see Han like in that fur coat later on too.
Yeah.
So it was very, very interesting. But yeah, everything we saw of Lando looks really, really cool. Here's the thing that I think is really interesting with this film. What they have to do is they have to get us to buy the fact that this is not an ensemble, but that these are just random people within the galaxy that we come to know as an ensemble, and they have to make us believe that. And so what I think is very interesting, just from a little bit in reading way too far into it, is that it feels like they're sort of nailing that these are figures in this galaxy that are maybe familiar with each other, but are not constantly doing business together or, working together. So it looks really good.
Yeah, let's dive into that. Woody Harrelson, Beckett. I'm putting together a team.
Mm-hmm.
And then
A
Chewie,
crew.
obviously.
Crew.
A crew, sorry. Crew.
Yep.
And of course, Chewie roars and Han says, that means yes. Which I said yes. I was totally on that. But Josh, I'm putting together a crew. Then we see the pieces of the crew together. What do you make of that? Does that fit what you were hoping to see in this?
Definitely. It's got that Dirty Dozen vibe, you know what I mean? Recruiting the oddballs together, And look, did we get that in Rogue One to a degree? Yeah, for sure, but it's a great trope. It's a great trope. So
Well, yeah.
I'm not worried about that. I definitely liked that aspect, and I think that it will have something to do with this heist thing that we're hearing, right? The heist thing, the gangster vibe of the film. So maybe they're going after a big take, you know what I mean? Something that could set them up nicely. I like this idea. And remember, we sort of talked about this when we were doing the video on my channel, but when Amelia is saying, I might be the only one that knows what you really are, we're kind of thinking that means ties to the Imperials. So there could be a very interesting thing going on with the plot, but that character, just in the small amount of screen time that we see Woody Harrelson on there, I buy it. It looks so interesting to me. This collective that he's putting together seems very interesting. And eventually in this video, we got to talk about Boba Fett, because this is the type of movie that we need the Fettster in to be playing around in. So
we're going to talk Boba Fett in a little bit more coming up. Oh, by the way, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and please subscribe. We talk Star Wars nonstop on this channel. I'm stealing that from John. I got to learn from the Den of Nerds stuff.
Yeah, we stumble into stuff.
Even if you don't like it, just please, because I'm here. Andrew, Josh just compared this in a way to Rogue One. I was going to ask you. It does have that Rogue One feeling where they're putting a team together. But Rogue One, a lot of people find the flaws of Rogue One to be the characters. Could this be like Rogue One improved in some way? Character
Maybe.
improved is what I should say.
Maybe. I mean, because we already know 3 of those characters, so we've got a head start this time. I mentioned in my reaction video, I have a list of like film commandments that I like to live by, and one of those commandments is any movie where somebody says, "I'm putting together a team," is going to be a good movie, no matter what the context. And even though he didn't quite say team, I think this counts.
Well, I said team.
Yeah, you said team.
I think this is the perfect opportunity to plug Andrew Fantasia's YouTube channel, because if your metric for a good movie is whether or not they say we're formulating a team, you're gonna love this guy's stuff. Please go check it out.
It's such a tried and true thing, though. It happens all the time, and I love when it happens. And this looks like that kind of movie. But yeah, if it is a Rogue One kind of situation where we get this disparaged group together, and then they have to come aside, they put aside their differences and all that jazz, I could dig that. I was struck by this new trailer by how Han and Emilia seem to know each other right from the get-go. Indeed. That was not what I was expecting. Like I told you last night, James, like I thought she was going to be the one that they're trying to rob/con, but it looks like she's just, she's in it to win it. She's part of the crew.
Can I speak to that question you just asked, though, James, about the thing? So I think that that's a really good point, because so I think what you're referring to when you say that the characters were the problem in Rogue One is the fact that you have this Dirty Dozen sort of thing go on, but you never spend that much time with any of the characters, including Jen. Like, Jen is, you literally see her as a baby, and then you're in it with her, and it sort of just moves at a breakneck pace. So I can see part of that problem being like, well, we're not attached to necessarily any of these characters, therefore the Dirty Dozen thing doesn't jive as well, because you need to like care, you need to pick sides, you need to, do that sort of thing. The difference here is that it's A, Han Solo, B, Lando, C, Chewie, and, fill in the blank. So I think that's an interesting point. It could be that trope, but it will be a little bit more successful because we have sort of a pre-written in connection with some of these characters. So I think that's a good point. Yeah,
and a jumping out point is, look, Jyn Erso is, for better or worse, a Han Solo type in Rogue One, but now we have actual Han Solo.
Right.
Yeah, it's not Harrison Ford, but we said it in the other video. It's written by Kasdan. It's Han, everything about him will be Han Solo. Let's go into Aaron Reich. How about that? We're going to do a vote of no confidence. Rob's going to do it with one of you guys. I don't know which one of you yet. It might be Josh, but Josh has to drink some more coffee before we...
Yeah, I got to drink a lot of water and... Go Eagles. All right.
Go Eagles. He's going to need that. But let's talk about Aaron Reich's performance. We touched on this on the video that we did together, Josh, on your channel, on the Den of Nerds. The teaser on the Super Bowl really didn't give us much. It got me enough to go, okay, I get it. Like, I see what you're doing. But today, we saw yesterday fleshed out. It was pretty much what we got yesterday, but fleshed out. And I've said it a number of times now, that last sequence in the trailer when he's doing the maneuver in the Falcon, and he said, oh, that could have been bad or whatever.
Yep.
I was like, okay, you're Han Solo. I can see past it. Like, hey, look, Harrison Ford is always going to be Han Solo. There's no question about it. That is what it is. But that moment for me, I could get past Harrison Ford because it's the character. It's not the actor. It was the character came through for me in that moment. Andrew, let's start with you. You're nodding your head. Josh just followed you and nodding your head. You guys can't see, but they're like this. So. Andrew.
That moment, like, that was a great part of the trailer. And I love when trailers have those pop moments, like after the title, when you think it's going to end, they kind of give you a little pop. And if I remember right, none of the Last Jedi trailers did that. So it was nice to finally see it in a Star Wars trailer. The turnaround, and like, thought we were in trouble there, but we're fine. It's fine. Like that's Han. I think that whole scene is going to be like straight out of Empire. Like, that's going to be a great, Falcon escape scene. The only way I think that scene could piss anybody off is if those tentacles belong to a giant Rathtar.
Yes. Hashtag giant Rathtar. Let's go.
Josh, what were your thoughts on Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo?
So I know we sort of spoke about this in the video we just did on my channel, but we can go into a little more in depth here. So basically, right away with the teaser, I was like, okay, I see what they're doing, but I'm a little concerned. I'm concerned because it really looked like they were sort of hiding his performance. I mean, he's sort of behind, he's facing the other way in the chair. We never see him actually moving his lips, delivering the lines. Some of the line sounds good, but you don't see it delivered, right? So it could be like done in ADR or whatever, and you're like, well, that's a little iffy. And then at the end, you see like the crate and what I think is probably like a door, maybe a jail cell sort of thing, putting shadow on his face. And so the whole thing was a true tease. But the difference is between my concerns and how I feel now is they deliver it. They deliver it big time in the trailer the next day. I mean, you get full on Han in several different shots, different like situations. You're absolutely right. The last line in the trailer when they're talking about, he's like, oh, I thought that I was a little concerned there, but we're fine. We're fine. Just that way that line was delivered. Something I spoke to on the video we just did. I said, look, you can see the attention to detail here. He does not sound like Harrison Ford. He does not look like Harrison Ford. But that character is not Harrison Ford, right? It's Han. And so some of those mannerisms, the way he approaches the dialogue, just the very small things, like I brought this up before, but when Amelia says, I might be the only one that knows what you really are, and then he says, what's that? And then he sort of softens his face and gets concerned. And you sort of see that side of Han where, like, despite being like a swashbuckler, like, very styled dude, he sort of wears his heart on his sleeve too. He's like, uh-oh, or like, it's not fair, and like kind of speaks to his emotions. So I felt like there was a lot of attention to detail, and it draws a parallel for me with like Obi-Wan. And you have Ewan McGregor sort of giving us a very different version of Obi-Wan, but one that still you can like logically follow a timeline and get to the Alec McGuinness Obi-Wan. Like, it makes sense. Like, you can see that transition in your mind. It makes sense. And if we can get that set up for Han Solo, that is all you need. He does not need to sound like Harrison. So I think it was like, I'm all in. I'm all in now. The trailer did a great job taking someone who is a skeptical Star Wars fan. This guy, I'm just like not really feeling the Han Solo thing. I am all in on this movie now. So yeah, that's what the performance did.
That's awesome. I said this on the video that we did on the Den of Nerds also, that this felt like a great 1-2 punch of putting the trailers together. I thought I thought the marketing was going to look. They hire the best team on the planet, to market these films. Like, Disney has money. Disney trickles that money down to Lucasfilm. They're not going to hire some Joe Blow company to put together these trailers or their marketing plan. This was a great 1-2 punch. Like you said, people were commenting on the reaction, like, oh, they're shying away from showing us Han. Trouble. This is sketchy. I'm iffy on this. They're not showing Han. And I was like, just relax. Like, for me, I felt, you know what? They're not doing that because they're teasing us. This is what Andrew and I talked about last week, where Andrew was like, I hope they don't really give us anything till the end. And then he got that moment that, he didn't get, hey, I'll tell you what I think. But he got, we got that film noir moment behind the blinds. We got, like, it was all slowly there. We know he wants to be the best pilot. Yeah, you're not showing me. And then today they punched us in the face and they're like, we are not afraid to show you Han Solo.
Yep.
We are not afraid to show you Ehrenreich in this role, because this role, like you just said, Josh, is not Harrison Ford. It is Han Solo. Now, a lot of people are saying he doesn't look or sound like Han. That's a problem. I think that's only a problem if you mentally allow it to be a problem. I think at some point you have to see past it and you just have to accept the movie for what it is. Whether the movie is good or not is another story. We obviously have not seen that. But I think in the trailer itself, if this trailer was called, Dougie Doug, a Star Wars story, I think we'd all be pretty happy with Ehrenreich in that role. That's what I think.
Yes, and the whole thing of like, oh, he doesn't sound like Han. You guys are right. They're not looking at it the right way. He doesn't sound like Harrison. Yeah, he doesn't look like Harrison. But as soon as you hear him say, "Thought we were in trouble, but we're fine. It's fine." Right. He sounds like Han. And
that could have been like that could literally have been like a 200th take. That could have been something where, like, they tried that a bajillion different ways with Lord and Miller, and this dude's, because look, the narrative here, and this is what's great about YouTube, right? First of all, we can swear. Here we go. No, I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, this is one of the things we can be completely real. We can we don't have to be like PR or whatever. So the stories out there, guys, are that this kid really struggled, right? This kid really struggled with this role. Part of the reason maybe that Lord and Miller are gone is because this dude was like, I don't want to be the guy that ruined Star Wars. The way they're directing me, the way they're taking this direction, I'm not comfortable with. I don't think you should be comfortable with, Kathy Kennedy. And then she brought out the executioner's sword and said, winter is coming, blah, blah, blah. And, but like, so, yeah.
In the name of Bob of House Iger.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Boom. And you're done. You'll never work in this town again. But yeah, it's an interesting situation, but I think that it nailed it. Like it gets there. People can, there's a certain amount of objectivity here, or subjectivity rather, right?
Yeah.
When they look at the performance, I can't argue with someone and say like, well, the way you viewed that is wrong.
Oh yeah.
Right. So if they view it in a way where they're like, well, I really didn't feel the Han Solo thing, that's fine. But I think that at the end of the day, the fact that they have taken the care and the time to make it as objectively flowing as possible. Like the through line is there. They've spent time and energy to get there, right? I think will make a big difference because it will not take people out of the film. Even if they don't buy it completely, it'll be consistent, right? And so I think that's immeasurably important. And also, everyone that doesn't think that he sounds like Han Solo is wrong. And that's why you need people like James, Andrew, and myself to come tell you guys that you're wrong and that your opinions are not valid.
Let's actually talk about the YouTube thing for a moment. What you just said. We know, because of social media, we know that the directors got fired 5 months in. We know that there was turmoil. We know that there was an acting coach called in Fahrenheit. We know that apparently his performance was like Ace Ventura. When we first heard the news, Andrew, you were on the podcast that day. We did a podcast and we finished the podcast. And as soon as we finished, Lord and Miller were fired. And we're like, are you kidding me? And then the next day, Josh, you came on with me and Brock and we did a flying casual on that for some time. And so when we first heard the news and we did that flying casual, leaks started to come out about why. And since then, I have been on Aaron Rick's side on this whole thing because I feel like Lord and Miller, as talented as they are, were not directing the movie. They were hired to direct. They were directing the movie they wanted to make. And so I think, the fault might be in too much faith into them by Kathleen Kennedy and co, perhaps. It was late into shooting, but maybe there was faith. And then as it starts getting put together, they realize it. And they say, wow, he's not good as Han Solo. They hire the acting coach. Acting coach comes in, and Aaron Reich's like insulted by it because he's like, well, I'm just doing what they're telling me to do. Yo, Kath, I don't want to do this. This isn't me. This is them.
I think he calls her Kit Kat, actually.
Kit Kat. Sorry, Kit Kat. You're right. I read that on Twitter. That's how I've always viewed this. The problem is I've been watching videos, reaction videos, people talking about it, and so many of them are bringing up the turmoil, the behind the scenes problems. And what does any of that have to do with the trailer? Do you know what I mean? Like we should almost not even know that happened. Does our viewpoint change? Yeah, but Josh, should we know that it happened though? Like that's not a.
But here's the problem with that. Like ideally, here's the thing. So there's two sides to this coin. The one is like, like art for art's sake, because the reality of the situation is it just never used to be like this. Like it just never used to be like this where the internet and just the whole like gamut of people's opinions and what they're voicing out there becomes this thing that you can't get away from. You can't separate yourself from it. You know sort of this backstory of this thing before you watch it. But the reality is if there wasn't a thirst for that, it wouldn't exist. So it's almost like you can't separate from it. Like as much as you'd like to, you absolutely cannot. And so the reason this trailer had so much pressure on it, and the reason that, people keep bringing up all the turmoil behind the scenes is because it's certainly important. It is a part of the narrative. Like it's just, that's just the reality of media now. So I don't know. But
the thing for me is you look at it and you go, okay, yeah, it's part of the narrative, blah, blah. But then when you watch it, that should not be in your mind when you're sitting down. It's like Superman's mustache in Justice League. Like, if you don't point that out to half those people don't notice it. But the minute you're like, his mustache is CG'd out, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, his mustache, it ruined him. His mustache didn't ruin the movie. Like,
no, but here's the thing. No, I definitely see what you're saying, but here's the difference. Or my take on it is this. A film's job a lot of the time is to sort of suspend disbelief and bring you into a world. And we constantly talk about, like, take me out of it, right? We say that all the time as people that really like film. We're passionate about this medium. We love our favorite things being on the big screen. The taking us out of it, what that means is that you're no longer engrossed in the world and wrapped up in the story. And when you're taken out of it for whatever reason, then that's when the narrative starts to play. That's when the things are starting to go on. Like, I'll give you an example. There was this little film that came out last year. I forget what it was called. Something Jedi or something like that. And there are some things that happen in that film that take you out of it. When it takes you out of it, the first example for me was literally this moment where I'm in the theater thinking, why was Disney unanimously pumped about this? There was a moment where I had that thought. I was like, this is very different. I was like, this is different, and I don't know how I feel about this. Why did Disney feel so strongly that this movie was just going to crush? You know what I mean? Like, I had that thought. And so that narrative becomes a part of the viewing experience, but only if the film itself isn't so tight that you don't get that second to think about it. So I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion. Like, if the trailer, I think the trailer does a tremendous job of bringing you in and holding you, and you don't think about it. But then when you think about how you feel about it afterwards, I think that narrative comes back. That's just my opinion, though.
Andrew?
See, I'm kind of, maybe lucky is the word for it here. As soon as a movie starts, my brain kind of turns all of that off subconsciously. Like the Superman mustache thing, I knew about. I had heard about it, but as soon as I sat down to watch Justice League and fade in and it starts, I forgot all about that. And I didn't remember until afterwards when somebody was like, Superman's mouth looks stupid. I was like, oh yeah, there was that mustache thing. Like, it all just kind of turns off in my head. Like, I'm sure once, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away comes on that screen and Solo begins, I'm going to forget about Lord Miller. With no crawl. Or with two crawls. I'm going to forget all about Lord Miller. I will. That's just I'm going to be thinking like, wow, he's racing speeders. Wow, Emilia Clarke has earrings on. And then
by the way, Andrew, Holdo, Leia, and The Last Jedi both have earrings on.
Damn it.
Numerous people have been pointing out how wrong we were. Just so you know.
I don't think anybody's rocked him like that, though. I mean, the mother of dragons, she can rock some earrings.
Hashtag earrings, hashtag fur. But yeah, I tend to check those things at the door when I come in. I don't think I'll be, like, obviously this movie has had a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I don't think it will affect me in terms of Alden himself. I mean, we got to remember that this is a kid who got his break because Spielberg, I think, saw him in a bar mitzvah video and said, I like that kid, he's got a good look. Like, so this is not like a classically trained actor as far as we know. Maybe, in the interim he's had some like extensive training, but this is a kid who just basically won the lottery of like YouTube luck and was put in stuff like Beautiful Creatures and Hail Caesar, and now all of a sudden he's Han Solo. So that's a lot of pressure, A. And B, when you have, fanboys screaming about like Last Jedi and about like, don't you ruin Harrison Ford, don't you ruin Han Solo. Of course this kid is going to be like peeing his pants every time they call action. I would be too. So I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. I liked him in Hail Caesar. I think he's, whether or not he's talented, I can't say it because I haven't seen him do anything meaty, but I think he has charisma and he has on-screen presence, which is what Han Solo is. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I want to trust that somebody, whether it's Ron or Lord Miller or this acting coach, somebody was smart enough to, sit down with him face to face until what came out of his mouth sounded like Han.
I just think a lot of people have trouble separating what they know about a movie. And because Josh, you're right, but also there are people that just don't. And they're like, wow, they call an acting coach. His performance is terrible. Doesn't matter what he does. Like that,
Yeah,
the mind
it becomes right. It becomes ammunition for the trolls in some ways. But I think that that's just par for the course. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't get as opinionated about it. First of all, because that thirst has sort of created the need for the content that we make, right? So
I want it gone.
Yeah, screw this. I am not having any fun on this video. But so that reason. But also, I just think that it's a part of what's happening with film. Like, it is a reason that I think certain franchises are not going to be able to be successful in the future, and certain franchises are. Like, you could see the golden boy of this whole situation is Deadpool. Like, the Deadpool situation with how they leaked that footage online, how they handled that with the fans, the marketing, Reynolds himself on social media. Like, there's this whole backstory to everything that's happening with Deadpool that has become a part of the brand. So I don't know. I just don't think it's as big of a deal. But having said all of that, with all of that pressure, with everything that's going on with it, I mean, I think they nailed it. I think they came out and did exactly what they needed to do with these trailers, and I think they did turn some heads.
I just to end this point out, I agree, because I think they fired the directors and then Ron Howard reshot the entire freaking movie pretty much.
Yep, he did.
Not like he went in and did touch-ups. They were like, hey, just make a movie. Like, it was basically like that. And that's why I think all of that negativity almost shouldn't exist, because it's not like Rogue One where they kind of went in and they picked things apart. They reshot the movie. Right,
but it's a similar thing to Rogue One, because what's going to happen here's what it really happens. Like, it's like this. If the movie comes out and it's rock and roll, are people going to talk about the Frankenfilm aspect? Yes, but they will not be able to hold that up as something like, if the film itself is great, no troll is going to be able to be like, yeah, but it was a disaster behind the scenes. It's like, who cares? Who cares? The movie nailed it. So it is only going to continue to be ammunition if the movie does not succeed. So it looks great. It's going to come out. It's probably going to be dope. And then once again, the next time this happens, when Kathy cuts off JJ's head for number 9, we'll all be like, well, yeah, but look at this record. They're doing it. Those 2 other movies that they put together were amazing. So give Kathy all the scissors. Kathy, Edward Scissorhands Kennedy. Like, I just cut it all up, man. If it's going to be good.
That's how I figure, man. Make the best movie you can, and that's why I think that's what they did. I think that's the one difference between this and Rogue One. Is Rogue One was pieces. This is just a new movie altogether.
Yeah, definitely.
And I never want to see the Lord and Miller cut, because I don't care. Okay, let's move on to everyone's favorite Star Wars character, Bosk. Now, Boba Fett could be in this movie, which makes sense, but Bosk could also be in this movie. Judging by the trailer, I got to side Akbar in this. Judging by the trailer, it looked like, but Paul Bettany said it's more gangster. But we've been hearing underbelly of Star Wars. Josh, you think? I know you want Boba Fett, and you want to talk about Boba Fett. Him, maybe Bosk, maybe some other IG-88, maybe. See any of that happening?
So I'll play along. We'll go Bosk instead of Boba.
No. I mean, like, any of them.
Yeah, no, but I mean, in all seriousness, the Trandoshans, they have major beef with the Wookiees. Bosk loves cutting up Wookiees, using their carcasses, vile sort of stuff. If we think what's going to happen is what's going to happen with the Wookiees at the beginning of the film, Han sort of maybe refusing an order to help them escape or something like that, I can see a scenario where Bosk will be involved, because it'd be hunting down Wookiees, you know what I mean? Especially if they're like technically Imperial dissenters, right? So that could be really, really cool. But in general, the vibe of this whole thing, the way this is all set up, like, yes, this is the perfect movie to introduce a lot of your bounty hunter characters. Let them play in this world, even if they're just in a cantina scene and they gun someone down. I mean, that shot, I'm sure you guys noticed this, but when the dude is in that armor or whatever, which we think is like a pike, right? And then they have the scene of Han Solo undoing the holster, the blaster, that is so Indiana Jones. That's the Indiana Jones scene where the dude with the swords, bam, gonna take him out. So that just feels so right. So I really, really want to see these characters, especially Boba Fett, get in there and mess around in this film. This is the perfect place to do that.
Anything else you want to add on Boba Fett?
So Boba Fett is a really cool character. Yeah, no. So obviously I want to see Boba. We've talked about this before. I want to see a Vader-like scene from Rogue One, but with Boba. So if you show Boba just straight handling business and disintegrating someone, and that's why we get the no disintegrations thing. I mean, I will be just singing this movie's praises on the highest mountaintop that I can find.
Fantasia?
I have a feeling, and I'm almost willing to put money on it, that they're going to reference the Indiana Jones thing, Josh. They're going to, in that very scene, they're going to have that moment where that guy starts twirling his spear or whatever, and he's like, come at me, bro. And Han's going to shoot him and then turn around. But that guy's armor is like Phasma armor, and then he just gets back up. And
yeah,
Han's
that
like,
would be awesome.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hope something like that happens. The underworld stuff is great, and we didn't really see a lot in the trailer, which I like. I like that they didn't play all those cards. The Bosk thing, though, I mean, if Han is meeting Chewie in this movie, which we're pretty sure he is, and if it's in the context of Wookiees are being captured and sold to the Empire as slaves, which again we think it is, then I think it's just a ginormous missed opportunity if you don't give Bosk a cameo. Just have him standing there like with a gun. We know he's been active since at least the Clone Wars, so it makes chronological sense. Just have him stand there with a gun next to like a bunch of Wookiees in cuffs, and they're like, they've brought us more Wookiees. Cadet Solo, shock that big brown one. And Han's like, nah, B, I don't do that. That's not cool. Bosk is like, I'm Cruella de Vil, and they get into like a little argument or whatever, and that's all you need. That's all. He doesn't even have to fight. Just he's there. If you don't do that, somebody's gonna. So why not do it? You literally cannot lose anything by doing it.
Yep, it's gonna be dope.
Yeah, I can't wait. I don't. A Boba Fett scene like Vader would be pretty sweet, though. I totally be down for that.
Flamethrowers. Like I just want to. Like he's gotta just go through a whole bunch of people. And like, look, we see all those pikes. It's very possible. Did you guys notice the dress that Amelia's wearing and that armor, and it's like red and stuff? That looks so familiar to me. I almost want to say it reminds me of what Asajj Ventress wears, and sort of reminiscent of like Dooku's planet and those people. And I would really like to see that sort of explored. If there's a possibility that there's sort of Black Sun stuff going on in the film, and we see, the Imperials and Black Sun sort of at odds, and you've got sort of multiple things going on. Just Wild West, man. Wild West Star Wars. Make it crazy out there, constantly trouble, and then have Boba just go through a scene, just tear through a group of Black Sun mercenaries or something. That would be incredible.
Yeah, if they make that like this movie's equivalent of Darth Vader in the hallway, then people are going to lose their minds.
Yes, indeed, sir.
Speaking of Darth Vader, rumors have been swirling for months now that Vader is in this movie. It kind of makes sense if Han is an Imperial or becoming an Imperial or disguising himself as an Imperial. Now, here's the thing. If Vader's in this movie, if his part is literally just background noise, maybe coming up, blah, 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 and then walking away, is that going to distract people? Are they going to be okay with Vader having a small cameo because he's basically a leader of the Imperials and it makes sense for that to happen? But are people going to be on board with that, Andrew?
I think some people are going to be like, yay, it's Vader, and a lot of other people are going to be like, why did we need Vader? Like, I know a good number of people who were annoyed with the cameo that we got in Rogue One of Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan. A lot of people didn't like that. They were like, why did she have to bump into them on Jeddah? Like, that was so, gratuitous. So I feel like that same group of people would feel the same way about a Vader cameo. I've heard people say that they wouldn't mind seeing Vader if it was like from a distance, like he's not in a scene with anybody, like he's just sort of doing something in the background. I can get on board with that. I think it might have been the guys on Collider who said, like, imagine Vader's in the background doing something, and we see that in another movie. That I could totally get on board with. But I don't need him to, walk up to an officer and be like, who is this Solo person I've been hearing about? I don't need him to get involved in what's happening here. I think that they can piss off a lot of Imperials and have it be fun and have it be exciting and tense without it having to be like the Imperial.
Josh?
It's a tricky thing, right? Vader has the potential to take over a movie anytime you put him in it. I think what would be an interesting way to use him is if Han Solo is sort of already on the fence about what's going on with the Imperials. He's like, I'm not super down with what's going on here. And then you get a moment of like real cruelty with Vader. And it doesn't have to be very long. It doesn't even have to be extravagant. Him maybe just force choking a Wookiee or something, just showing some real cruelty. And that becomes something that's ingrained in Solo, his reason for wanting to leave and run or whatever. Because the idea is that the Wookiees are helping construct the Death Star. We get that scene at the end of Sith with Palpatine and Vader sort of looking out at the construction of the Death Star. And so if that sort of ties in and you get some Vader with a moment that perhaps affects Han's moral compass, I think that could be really successful. I don't know if we need a Crimson Blade ignited. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that might be a little too much, but I do love me some Vader, so it's tough.
Yeah, I just want a little bit of Vader because I think if you're doing the Imperial thing, it makes sense for him to be there in some capacity. Like, no lightsaber, but because if he has a lightsaber, it ruins Solo. Because Solo,
unless Han picks up a yellow lightsaber, and when Amelia says, "I'm the only one that knows who you really are," it's that he's a Jedi, and that this whole time he's denounced the Jedi code and ways, and that Boba's a Jedi too, and then there's a young Phasma and she's a Jedi. And that's Solo.
I've decided
and the droid's not a Jedi, but it's force sensitive.
Yes, indeed, like Maz.
That fits in. I thought Maz was in the trailer.
I know. I watched your thing. I know. I was like,
a monkey.
But it could be. She was over 1,000 years old. So
exactly. Look. Let's talk about Maz now. I don't like Maz very much. I mean, in the Force Awakens, I was like, eh. And in Last Jedi, I was like, oh, good God. But it makes sense for her to be in this. And in Battlefront 2 story, that's the only time I've been like, yeah, I like Maz now. Like, that's the only time. And this movie, why would you not put Maz in it? Unless, of course, you don't know who Maz is when you're writing the movie, Josh.
Yeah, but again, it becomes that question of like, how much are we going down Memberberry Lane? You know what I mean? Maz is a thing that isn't even really established as a Memberberry. But if you start sort of doing that every film, you're like, oh, remember Maz Kanata? Oh, I remember. It's like, it's dangerous. You know what I mean? Like you're sort of trying to serve up your new stuff as nostalgia within 3 years. I don't know if I buy it, but it would make sense for her to be in there contextually. I don't know.
I think here's the difference. And we'll get to it in a second. Here's the difference for me though, Josh, is if he just goes to Tagadan or whatever for a drink, Maz could be there and you could be like, hey Maz, get me a beer. Like just like that.
Dude, I would be so down. And even if that place is just referenced or something, that could be cool. Because I do like the idea that these things that are important to the galaxy are actually important. Like they are contextually talked about. The only problem with that is if they do that, if they take enough time and energy to make Maz Kanata's castle a relevant point of conversation, I'm going to be super upset when you juxtapose that against the lack of talking about Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Like, that will just feel really weird because people should have been talking more about Luke. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Andrew, Maz Kanata.
I would have been okay with no mention of Maz in this movie at all until I played Battlefront 2. And the reason for that is because, in Force Awakens, Han walks in and he's like, this is my old friend, Maz. And she's like, oh, Han, I love you. We're old pals and everything. And, it's been 30 years since we've seen Han, since Return of the Jedi. So it makes perfect sense that in those 30 years, he could have met and made friends with Maz Kanata and grown close to her. But then we saw her in Battlefront 2, which is right after Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. And he's in Takodana, and they're already talking like they've got a great rapport. They've known each other for a while. She's like, you owe me again. So at that point, I'm like, okay, he knew her before the original trilogy. So something like now we kind of need to see that. If it was just before, if they had met between Jedi and Force Awakens, I would have been fine. If we don't see their meeting, I would have been fine with her not being in this. But now that they did that, it's like, okay, show us that now. I still don't know if Disney has designs of doing another Solo. If this does well, I don't even know if that's silly of me to say at this point, but. If that's the case, maybe they're saving some things for part 2. But if not, yeah, just throw her in there somewhere. Throw her in as like a little, like a contact. It can just be quick. We don't have to see them make friends right away. But meet her. Why not?
Let's wrap this up. We'll have our Solo trilogy discussion another day because that's definitely still on the table.
Yep.
I think. All right, guys. This is the one that dropped today. Is the full teaser trailer? Is what Star Wars on YouTube is referring to it as, which tells me that probably 2 months out we will get a full trailer for the Han Solo movie, Solo: A Star Wars Story. Is there anything more you guys need to see? Well, I know you're both sold on it, but anything more you need to see? And is there anything you think that could sell the people that are still not sold on this film into it, Josh?
I think they need to show a little bit more of Han in action, maybe with that blaster, or I don't know, just a little bit more of Han. You know what I mean? Like him driving and everything was really, really cool. You see that he's like a really good pilot, but to me, the Han Solo character has always been more than just a good pilot, right? He's sort of he's like a pirate. He's a smuggler. He's sort of a borderline bounty hunter. He's kind of criminal. So I would really like to see, I mean, you get that in the trailer where he says, I've been pulling scams since I was 12, right? So seeing a little bit of that, maybe a little bit of that Ezra Bridger flavor, you know what I mean, her early on, and showing him shoot someone from under the table or pull something off, I think could go a long way. And then maybe some conflict, right? Because we really don't know, like, who's the villain in this? You know what I mean? Like, what's the conflict here? Like, they're just on the run, or what's the job? You know what I mean? If they're Dirty Dozen in this thing, like, what's the gig, man? What are you after? So those sort of things I think can solidify it. If you show me some Han doing like a roll, shooting, pew, 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 just give me some pew pews. That's all I need.
Some pew pews. Andrew, anything more you want to see, or anything you think will sell the haters into liking this?
I think that what this movie needs right now, and this could be in a trailer, or they could save it. I'd rather they save it for the movie. But like for example, in the second Avengers movie at the beginning, when they're out there in the woods in the snow, and you've got that shot, like there's like a little long shot of the Hulk just like tearing through like Hydra agents and such, and just like beating the crap out of a bunch of people. I want something like that, because we are in the world of Han Solo, because we are in this world of like swashbucklers and scoundrels and stuff. We have the opportunity to do something Star Wars hasn't really done, except maybe for that one little scene in Camino in Episode 2, which is physical combat. And I think that there's a great opportunity to do that in this film with somebody who hasn't gotten that much love lately, and that's Chewbacca. Because I can totally see him tearing up some fools Hulk style. Like imagine
ripping
him like, on that train, ripping some arms off. Imagine that. Like imagine him on that train, or just somewhere like in the middle of this action sequence where he just like goes through like 20 guys, just like and just like tears stuff apart. I think because Chewbacca got, he lost out on that hug in Force Awakens, and he really didn't have a lot of screen time in Last Jedi. I think he needs it right now. Let's give him that moment where like the Hulk was in the Avengers movies, where when his scene ends, everybody's like, Chewie, man, yes, I want that.
Awesome. For me, I'm sold on this movie. I don't really care. I think the villain is a key. I think people will want to know what, like, especially, is that a Pike? Is it not a, like, what is that? what is the plot of this film, I think, other than Harrison Ford putting together a crew, not a team, so that Andrew's 50-50 on whether or not
It's
it'd be a
a
good
crew,
movie.
James, not a team.
Well, if it was a team, Andrew would give this movie an A+ on his Andrew Fantasia YouTube channel. And you can find Josh at the Den of Nerds YouTube channel, which is probably how you found us anyway. So anyway, guys, that is all for Flying Casual. We're all looking forward to the Solo trailer. We have way more to talk about later tonight. Vote of No Confidence, Alden Ehrenreich's performance as Han Solo. Was it good? Was it bad? Look, I think it was good, but maybe you guys think it was bad. They're going to debate it, go head to head, and talk about it. Look for that tonight. All right, guys, thanks a lot, and may the force of others be with you.
8 out of 10 times.
I'll tell you what I think.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.